Welcome to Celebrating Act Two. Celebrating Act Two is the user manual for the second half of your life.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on Celebrating Act Two. As you know, I'm John Coleman with my business and co-founder partner, Art Kirsch. And
Hello, everybody.
we are once again with one of our favorite
Hmm.
regular contributors to Celebrating Act Two, Manny Pacheco, the man that I consider our entertainment guru, but certainly Hollywood historian, author, and I'm probably leaving something out, Manny. What am I leaving
Really
out?
nice, really nice guy.
Well, I'm also a professor of broadcasting, so
There
yeah.
you I knew there was something. So listen, Professor, we've got a big question for you, and Art knows where we're going with this today.
So, Manny, you being an historian on all things Hollywood, you must have some of your tentacles into Hollywood reopening. I mean, we've been shut for a while. You know much about what's going on up there, or can you help fill us in?
Well, Hollywood is going to reopen, but when is going to determine the production companies are going to determine this, and the reason being is that they have lots of ideas and productions in slate, but the trick is to get the insurance companies to approve each and every production, and of course, with the coronavirus, there's certain guidelines that have to be met before these insurance companies sign off on the opening of each and every production. For example, they're going to be set up in two different components. Component A, we'll call it, will be the actors on screen. Obviously, they can't be wearing masks when they work, so they'll have to be tested every single day. They'll be working behind plexiglass. Component number B will be, of course, the folks working behind the camera. They'll be working. Actually, they'll be tested every third day. Again, working behind the plexiglass. Component A cannot commingle with component B during the down times, and there'll be a health inspector to make sure that each and every production meets these guidelines. If they don't, the actual production company gets shut down. So they've got to meet that, but first, insurance companies have to sign off, and once that happens, then the productions can go into effect. Now, there are some side notes, but we'll get into that as we go along.
I have
So,
a question for you on that, because I know that John wants to get into craft services, the important stuff. But uh, uh, even on the actor's standpoint, until a year from now, a year and a half from now, when we may have uh, vaccines and pretty much it's no different than flu and other things that people run into, actors in general have to be facing each other,
Mhm.
articulating. Forget about love scenes and things like that, or kissing and
right.
hugging, where they're really um, they don't have plexiglass themselves, and
No.
obviously can't, unless of course you're making a movie about coronavirus and it's a semi-comedy. So, have there been conversations about that on how all that's going to work? Because the actors are taking quite a risk, a bigger
Well,
risk, it would seem.
yeah, that's why they're going to be tested every day, and they should, because it's going to be. And right now there is a scarcity of testing. Keep that in mind. So as that improves, then the productions will be able to move at a quicker pace. But this is going to slow down the ongoing productions of television programs, feature films. And that's one of the reasons why the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has moved back the Academy Awards from February to April to give enough time to allow for these movies to be made. So this is really a precarious situation with regards to how things are going to be made. And if you speak to the actors, they don't seem to be as concerned about coronavirus as, let's say, the movie moguls who could get sued, obviously, or even the directors who have to finagle their way around plexiglass and the like. The actors can't wait to get back. For example, Glenn Close has been wanting an Oscar for the entirety of her career. She may have one with her performance upcoming performance in Sunset Boulevard, but first it has to be made.
Yeah.
So she just
Yeah.
can't wait to get behind the camera, or and in front of the camera, I should say, and get to play Norma Desmond in her wonderful way that she did on stage, and now she's going to bring it to the screen, and I see an Oscar for her. But again, she's fighting to get this thing made, but the realities of coronavirus are really in the way. And
Manny, we as fans, as moviegoers and television viewers, we forget that show business is show business, the business of making a show. And this is really the component that we're talking about. Um, there's financing, and you can't get financing if you don't have insurance. So nobody gets paid unless the insurance companies are willing to pretty much indemnify you and give you
right,
a policy. So now that we've got this pandemic we have to deal with, the rules have all changed. It's going to add cost.
right,
It's slowing things down.
right.
Now, and I know how they work. During this downtime, everybody's been finding great scripts. Everybody's been doing everything they can, but nobody can start the production until we know, when is the virus going to be over? When can we go back to work safely? Where is it going to play? And the theaters, of course, are dying for material. They'd love to open up now
Well,
that there's some
you
chance of it.
you mentioned something very, very good there with the show business. There is the show side of it, and the movie studios are very adept to the idea that, well, when we come back, we got to come back strong, or people won't go to the movie. So that's why they've been holding James Bond at bay, for example, and
Yeah.
that's why there's discussions of the idea of sending Tom Cruise where there is no coronavirus, and that is to this space station to make a movie. I would
Uh,
imagine it probably has to do with Mission Impossible, but it might be a separate standalone space movie. But either way, the idea of Tom Cruise at the space station filming a movie will probably get the viewers, the audience, back into the seats, because that's something that everybody's going to want to see. So there is a show part of it and there is the business part of it, and they both have to commingle, or it's going to be all for naught, at least for the next year or so.
yeah.
I think, Manny, that, and I think we spoke about this on another time. I don't know whether on a recording or privately, but um, just as TV, for instance, went from a married couple having two beds to being able to have a single bed. I mean, all sorts of adaptations given changing of time and everything else. One of the biggest changes has nothing to do with being on screen, is how they're delivering content, such as the streaming services.
Right.
And they have
Right.
proliferated. And I have a question as to how many years, not months or weeks, years after there is a vaccine, perhaps, that people will be willing to go back into it. They're getting used to getting the content at home. We all have seen the proliferation of. It's like years and years and years ago, nobody had a smartphone. Now everybody in every little town and every dusty place around the world has a smartphone. So that's changed a lot of different things. Also, large screen TVs, higher definition, higher
Right.
speed.
Right.
Um, people, I love the theater experience. I would miss that terribly. I'd miss Broadway. But the truth of the matter is, I can't imagine how soon I'm going to be going back into the theater. So how do the theater survive, or does the business just
Yeah.
totally change?
The determinative factor of all of this is going to be what the millennials do, because there's more of them. They're driving the market, shall we say, with regards of how people receive content. And even beyond them, I mean, the Generation X and Z are really going to tell the tale of the tape. I mean, the three of us can wax eloquent about the nostalgic value of going to a movie theater, but truth be told, we're not going to drive the market. It's going to be the next generation of viewers. So that. Watch them. That's going to give you an idea of where we're going with all of this. I do have one anecdote. I think this will actually close the segment, because once you hear the anecdote, I think you're gonna laugh. But television programming production is going ahead first, even before the movie screens. And the ones that are really jumping on board right away are the soap operas. And one in particular, The Bold and the Beautiful, has decided that they figure out a way to get around social distancing for the actors. So what they're going to do in a scene, for example, a public scene, is they're going to fill the background instead of background actors, which of course could be dangerous or not healthy at least. They're going to use, of all things, blow up dolls. I don't know that they were made for that reason,
Oh my
but that's
Lord.
how they're going to protect the actors, by using blow up dolls as atmosphere.
I sure hope they're out of focus. That's all
I
I can say.
I really don't want I don't really want to end on blow up dolls.
The bold,
Okay.
the bold and the beautiful. Now
They're
Well,
I'm
being
not sure which
bold.
is bold and which is beautiful, but you
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
actually, speaking of which, I forget which a series on TV they had the last episode shot, and they couldn't. They had to stop filming. So what they did was they filled it in with animation. Uh,
Wow.
they had a lot of it shot, and then they
yeah.
filled it in with animation of the characters uh, as a cartoon, like not as stick figures or as silly animation, but of an animation. And I the favorite one of my wife, but you talk about that. But if John, if you don't ask about the food I claimed you wanted to, it's all box lunches now. What's going to happen to the craft services guy? I
Well,
mean,
for
really.
for
Well,
for people who don't know, craft services is the free food that's on the set. It includes lunch, but it's also all day long nibblies, everything from good fruit to bad candy. And
let
people
me
love it. It's like a perk for being in the business. There's a
let me
table off to the side, there's somebody serving you. Craft services is the euphemism for going hog wild with food all day long.
let me just offer two anecdotes about this, and this might answer the question. One, I don't know how many businesses used to have the free samples of candy. I know my post office used to have all sorts of great Snickers and Almond Joy and Twix and all that. They're gone. So that's kind of sad. And then, of course, in Vegas, I mean, for the time being, they're getting rid of the buffets. If you want
Yep.
to eat in Vegas, you got to eat in your room. So I would say the craft services folks are going to be hurting financially, because I'm just not sure that productions are prepared to just leave food on a table for everybody to grab at. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of what they're trying to accomplish, to get themselves insured, and of course to pass muster with health watchers, health services who come in and make their determination. So I don't know. I think craft services are going to go the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah, I think so, at least for the foreseeable future. They'll
Yeah.
serve box lunches to everybody, so it's not like anybody's going to starve, but that grazing ability, it
Well,
ain't going to happen for a long
you
time.
might have some herd immunity, but there won't be any grazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Manny, this has been great, and let's hope that everything does progress quickly and that the production community can get back to making TV shows and movies back to normal at a normal pace so we get to enjoy them all. And then I'm looking forward to going to a movie theater, quite frankly.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, we all keeping our fingers crossed, but again, we're just going to have to look at the tea leaves and see where everything is going.
And they can go to www.gottenhollywood.com to keep up the latest on all this stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Good, Manny. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
You bet.
For more on Celebrating Act Two, visit our webpage, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tell your friends. Celebrating Act Two is the user manual for the second half of your life.